All right, so for right now, we are going to react to when fireworks fade, kinda still image, and by kinda still image, I mean the background is animated, but it's not like a full-blown AI MV like everyone else for the most part does. This is just a simpler project to get it in on like the 4th of July. I had intended to react to this on the 4th of July, but I had to help move a bunch of shit from a ranch to a private space, so I was a bit exhausted coming home, and I almost shattered my leg in the middle of moving stuff. So, you know, things happen, right? Let's see. Keanu says you're going to change the stream picture. Also, it seems to be a normal time. Midnight is late. I mean, that's the time. You got me there, right? That one time I did stream at midnight, right? Not doing that for a while again. Actually, to be fair, I was on a podcast from 11 o'clock to like 1 o'clock in the morning with Gleeman, Teddy, Teddy and Rhino yesterday. So whenever that comes out, I didn't have my own recording of it. It's a podcast, but you know. All right, so let's get on with this. Let me make sure everything's up at the correct volume. Okay. All right, let's check this. Okay. Make sure the captions are on. Make sure the captions aren't on auto-generate. Okay, good. They're on a regular thing. I don't know why, but sometimes YouTube will just put me on auto-generated captions, even when there's actual captions already manually put in there, and it bothers me to all hell. So, again, obviously this is a 4th of July video, right? And we can see on the top left-hand corner, we see the Prisoner of War and Missing in Action Remembrance flag. You have the American flag in the top right-hand corner. Kura, you're gonna have to remind me who the guy in the deer mask is, to be perfectly honest. I'm drawing a fucking blank here. In the center, we have, again, a memorial in honor of all who served in defense of freedom. And everyone in the image here is former military within the Sky Bros community. So, yeah, we got Brewer the Boomer. From left to right, we have Brewer the Boomer with the cigar in his mouth. We have me, right? We have Raiden, Counterintelligent, Silas, and then Dot Pocket. And these are all American military vets for, you know, obvious reasons, 4th of July, right? So, I guess let us begin with the song.
When the fireworks fade, the war doesn't end.
Now, Elk is the stag dude. Okay, fair enough. So Elk, that's fair. Yeah, so when the fireworks fade, the war doesn't end is obviously a reference to like the trauma and the, not just the trauma, but also the duty, right? Because it's like you take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. And, you know, that oath, many people still keep it, you know, even after they leave the military, right? You know, that's the whole point of the Oath Keepers organization, right? Hello, Spartan Bot. But also the obvious thing that a lot of people think about, like when the you know, the war doesn't end when you come back home, is usually talking about like traumatic experiences. Now, I don't really have any traumatic experiences from the military. I'm not gonna lie, right? I did serve in the military. I completed my contract. I don't have any particularly traumatic experiences from the military per se. So I'm a bit lucky in that category, right? Could have been way fucking worse for me.
Lace up these boots, though the march is long done. The battles I fought left me shadowed and numb.
So again, we're gonna go line by line here, and okay, look, hold on. What did Spartan Bot say? Good evening, lol. I was wondering if you were going to crash more computers today, but I see I beat the updated title. Right, fair enough. What's in the physical standards for the military considering eyesight and hearing? As far as eyesight and hearing, I'm not entirely sure, right? I just got in, and then like I did my I did what I was supposed to do, and then I left immediately as soon as I could. So as far as like the requirements for eyesight and hearing, I don't know what the specific things were. Fun fact: I always fell asleep during the hearing tests, and like I would always get my hearing test back, and apparently I would push the button when I was asleep in response to the actual like the little beeps. So I was like, huh, shit. Okay, apparently my hearing is better than I would have expected it to be, right? Anyway, let's see, where was I? Lace up these boots through though the march is long done. Obviously, the march here being the service. And lace up these boots is obviously because, like, let's be fair, boots are what you wear in the military, right? And incidentally, Kura seems to have put me in what looks to be boots in here. I usually let people just decide what to put me in leg-wise because I don't have any design, like, below the knee. That's standard, to be perfectly honest. So I got put in boots in this one. Yeah, basically everyone is wearing either their boots or, in the case of Silas, those seem to be a sort of like military dress shoes, because Navy dress shoes, because he's in a dress uniform, right? Oh shit, I forgot the second line. Professional streamer, everyone, right? Let's see. Okay. The battles I fought left me shadowed and numb. Again, the whole sense of depersonalization that often happens with traumatic experience doesn't happen for everyone, even those who have traumatic experiences. Not everyone has the same reaction. Some people deal with it way better than other people do. Some people do eventually get over it, and some people do not, right? So, yeah, the whole idea of, like, the almost like... Actually, funny enough, I think it's in, what the fuck is it? One way that I've had it explained to me from people who had way worse experiences than I did was the scene in what the fuck was the name of that movie? Rambo. The whole idea of like again the totally different world that you come back to. It's like at one point you're trusted with multi-million-dollar equipment. You know it's life and death, and then you come back over here and then it's all petty and bullshit. It can be very jarring, right? But yeah, the battles I fought left me shadowed and numb. Like, the shadowed thing is, again, left in the dark. The numb is the loss of sensation, right? Let's see. In the Navy, I went through a training school with a guy who didn't have a sternum. Would you say they didn't have a sternum? What? Okay, then. How do you fall asleep during hearing tests? I had to take them every year as I was growing up because of being half deaf and loss of hearing. I had to focus on those beeps and hearing whispered words. I have no idea. You learn to do a lot of really weird stuff in while asleep in the military. I saw one guy fall asleep in the front leaning rest position. So that's like the hold pose in push-ups. It was so fucking funny. Like. They just stopped responding during the middle of push-ups, and the guy, one of the drill sergeants, went over there and like waved his hand in front of the guy's face while it was looking down to the ground. It's like, battle! This one's asleep! Saw a couple people fall asleep standing up is really fucking funny shit. So the things you can do, the things you can fall asleep to when you're sleep deprived, right? Also, you do look good in boots. Thank you. Hello, Kenok. Let's see.
Fireworks light up the heavens in red, white, and blue.
Again, it's like the whole, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, we're talking about, like, 4th of July, right? Fireworks light up the heavens. Heavens being an interesting word, right? Because it's, like, the distant sky as opposed to the near sky. That distinction doesn't exist as much in modern English, but we used to, especially in Old and Middle English, have a word for the closer sky and the further sky. And the farther sky, was the heavens. Well, the closer sky would have been something along the lines of, like, in modern English, the Lift, right? It's where we get, like, the Luftwaffe. In, like, German, the Luft would be the closest thing to, like, the close sky. The red, white, and blue, again, red for the blood shed to water the tree of liberty, white for the liberty that was bled for, and then, purity, and then blue for the freedom that was bled for. Sorry. Yeah, the white is, again, I'm pretty sure it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's liberty, purity, and bloodshed. But it's been a long time, to be perfectly honest. The fair sky, right?
But they echo the blast that still tear me in two. I watch from the edges while families embrace.
Okay, so that line right there definitely reminds me of Boomer's video, because in Boomer's video we have literally that exact scene. So we have Brewer, the Boomer. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Okay, right here, Shades game. We're going to pause this because I'm only looking for one scene. Yeah, it happened. It recurs a couple times. Yeah, so apparently this, again, this happens a couple times in the story. There's one in his human life, and then there's one corresponding incident, which happens when he's in his fantasy life, right? So, yeah, that definitely reminds me of that scene in Brewer's lore. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure that part might have been inspired by a real thing that actually happened to him, because apparently that was a lot of the stuff in his lore connects to things that happened in his life. I try to avoid that personally because I don't want to particularly risk being doxxed, right? But yeah. But they echo the blast that still tear me in two. Let's see. Again, the explosions of artillery fire and warfare, right? I watch from the edges while families embrace. So the edge would be putting people on like standing on the edge is a border case, right? Not really belonging there or on the other side, right? And the edge that is being stood on is distinguishing where families embrace. So it's like technically in that sphere, but like at the very outer sphere of it.
Proud of a country that can't see my face, in the crowd of the living, I'm dying inside.
Okay, so proud of a country that can't see my face. Interesting. I mean, to be fair, you can't really so like you could be thankful to a person in the abstract, right? Without necessarily knowing who they specifically are. Not to say that like my military service deserves any kind of like accolades. I'm not saying that at all. But the thing is like, again, obviously, like oftentimes when you encounter someone who is former military, you're not going to know it, right? Which is the entire point of things like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, right? In Veterans Day, we celebrate those who are still living who served, whereas in Memorial Day, we remember those who died in service. They're two different days. Do not go up to a living veteran and thank them on Memorial Day. Memorial Day is for the dead. It's just we have a day for the living and the dead. I'm just saying. So yeah, and oftentimes, especially like before I was in the military, I used to volunteer at the VA. There's a lot of also invisible injuries and disabilities that can be really life altering that aren't apparent upon being seen, right? So there's the whole thing of like, yeah, you can see the person, but you can't necessarily see who they are sometimes. Oftentimes because a lot of people will hide themselves, right? So proud of a country that can't see my face. Or, in the case of like, especially nowadays where people have gone fucking mad, they might choose not to see your face, right? In the crowd of the living, I'm dying inside. Again, the dying inside bit here is referencing to, again, the experiences that you can have in combat, which can lead to complete ruination of the person who experiences them. Let's be perfectly honest, right? I mean, there is a tragically high suicide rate among military vets for a reason, right? Because sometimes people just do die inside. It's just a thing that happens. What in the world am I missing from chat? Hold on. Okay, so Keonala says, I'm surprised English didn't steal a loan word for different levels of the sky. We see not everyone knows about the spheres of air that wraps around the Earth, only the ozone. Just someone says, only guy I knew who could lay perfectly flat on the table that he was sitting at, and I mean 90 degrees. Never asked if he could bend that far, but he could make perfect Star Wars models with paper clips. Hello, Play Astronomical. Let's see. Yeah, I'm paranoid of little things I feel like would be nothing, could bite you in the future docs-wise. Oh, yeah, that's fair. I've also taken shots at people who shoot their enemies, so, you know, I have reason to be concerned about, you know, doxing. I also watched GeoGuessrs. I mean, I have a lot of fun in GeoGuessrs. Kura says, a bit of context. I wrote this from my grandfather's perspective and my two uncles' perspectives. Grandfather served on the 34th parallel in Korea, and my uncles were POW and MIAs. That definitely explains. Well, I mean, to be fair, almost everyone who does like a military thing is going to eventually put like a POW and MIA thing there. But that makes sense that there's like a personal connection here. And 34th parallel, Korean War. Yeah, damn. What a conflict to be in. I'm just saying, right? What Korea? Holy crap. Let's see. Although to be fair, some of the battles in Korea have really funny names, like the Battle of Pork Chop Hill, right? Could also reference that you're all VTubers. That's all. You know what? That's the obvious point, and I completely fucking didn't think about it. You were absolutely right, Kionala. Let's see. Just someone says I meant two 90-degree bends. Ooh, PNG tuber, same thing. I mean, fair enough. I think the distinction is a little bit more pedantic than anything else. So.
Metals that tarnish and memories that high, they offer their thanks like a coin in a wheel.
Okay, with metals that tarnish and memories that hide. So I mean, obviously, like again. You know, actually, it kind of depends. Like, if they're made out of bronze, they shouldn't really tarnish. But I get the point, right? It's like the things that are offered can like break apart and degrade over time, even if they're meant to commemorate something, right? And memories that hide is, again, we're talking about like people with military experience might not necessarily, might not necessarily want to remember things that happened. And we also see this with the United States as well, right? Whereas like a lot of the efforts of like people in the United States right now are to actively hide memories that, you know, contradict the current ideological goals that people have for it, right? You got to obliterate all the good things about American history so that, you know, people can hate their country and then redefine it what it is from the inside, right? So and I don't like that project. I don't like that particular ideological project. Leave my country alone, communist bastards, right? They offer their thanks like a coin in a well. Actually, that's a really good image, right? It's like it's like a tiny little gesture, but it doesn't really amount to much. It's just, again, a coin in a well, right? Let's see. Or at least I think that's where they get now, where Kura's going with this. Ken also had a grandpa who was in Vietnam, and when he died, they played taps, and now I can't hear that without... That's fair. Boo Huckley said, could be fair, would be fair, should be fair, must be... God damn it, Boo Huckley.
Walk away happy I've been through this hell.
So, okay, hold on. So it's, they offer their thanks like a coin in a well, then walk away happy I've been through this hell. Okay, so... Again, there's the dichotomy of experience between the people who actually go, off to war versus, who don't, right? The whole idea of like the coin, the coin in the well thing actually makes a lot of sense now, because it's like, this is just like words that aren't actually backed up with any kind of deed. Not that I think I am, like, again, I'm technically in this group, but it's like, I don't think I'm owed anything by anyone, to be perfectly honest. Like, I think that would be kind of like punching at the wind if I were to actually demand anything, right? But again, it's like for other people who actually may have had, who actually have gone through the hell of war, right? I was just in the military. That doesn't mean I was actually, that doesn't mean I have the same experiences, Brewer did. I can see how that would be a potentially, for some people, a really frustrating thing where it's like, again, oh yeah, thank you for your service, as like, again, it's just vacuous words. It doesn't mean anything, right? Or that's what a lot of people do actually in practice, think. I actually, it depends. Some people have a disposition where it does mean a lot, and there's other people who have a disposition where it basically means nothing, right? So it all depends on the disposition here.
The glare of the rockets can't cover the truth that freedom has cost more than parades ever knew. And the fire.
And that's a good point right here. The glare of the rockets can't cover the truth. It was like obviously like distracting from, the whole point of like the rockets is to gather your attention to them, right? But what is the function of the rockets, right? I mean, the function of the rockets is to, again, remember the birth of the nation and the trial that it was to even get the nation, the country up off the ground as an independent, political body. And we have that story in, again, the Star Spangled Banner, right? And the rocket's red glare, the the rocket's red glare bursting in air, I can't remember right now. Anyway, it's gonna drive me mad. Hold on. I haven't listened to the fucking thing in a while. Hold on, I'm being retarded, it seems. Okay. Okay, here we go. I want to make sure that I actually get the actual lyrics right? Hold on. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air. Okay, I am actually retarded, it seems. Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there, right? So, I mean, that's what the rockets actually are there to, again, to remember, right? Is, again, that's why we use the rockets, right? That's why we use the fireworks the way we do. Yeah, so the rockets, the glare of the rockets can't cover the truth. So the issue with the celebration itself is that sometimes the spectacle of a like memorial service can actually become a distraction from the function of the service itself, right? Especially when that could happen again, generations disconnected of the original event being commemorated. Yeah. So what's the truth that is potentially being covered? That freedom has cost more than parades ever knew. Well, it's because like every person who dies is a mini universe of their own, right? They are a unified center of subjectivity upon which there is a horizon, a causal horizon around them, right? And it's going to be distinct for each individual person. And, when they die, well, that's gone, right? Every person is in a real sense an entire world of their own, and again, that's the thing that has to be sacrificed. The tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of tyrants and patriots alike sometimes. Let's see. Just someone said, my parents, I hate saying adopted, landed me in my family with a World War II uncle that was buried in Europe, another World War II uncle that was a machine gunner, never thought to ask about what happened, and an uncle that was in the Air Force but stationed on a carrier off of Vietnam during that war. Yeah. I mean, Vietnam as a conflict got shafted. We got defeated by fucking media, by communists in the country with that one. Let's see. School, Kionala says school doesn't cover why we celebrate the flag. I mean, the story behind the anthem. I mean, that's fair. Oh my god. I shouldn't have gorged myself before stream.
Freedom has cost more than parades ever knew.
And that's the thing, too. It's like... So it depends on what part of the day you catch me on. Is I can be very almost cruel, but I could also be very understanding. It's like on the same subject, right? And I do think that people don't really understand what the cost of, because hypothetically speaking, right? When we say it's like, again, the tree of liberty must from time to time be refreshed with the blood of tyrants and patriots, right? People don't really understand what that means, right? Because when someone dies, it doesn't just mean that person has died. Now, yeah, sure, it's fucking terrible for the person who has died. Yes, no shit, right? But take a step back and look at the all surrounding area behind, around this, right? And this is something I have to point out when I talk about suicide often too, is that you take a step back and it's like, okay, the person who has died, their problems are either over or they have just begun, right? Let's be perfectly honest. If there is no afterlife, his problems are fucking over. If there is an afterlife, well, then his problems have either like just begun or they've ceased to be, right? So let's take a step back and look at the people who still live in the here and now, right? Well, the people who actually love this person are the ones who have to suffer in time the loss of this person, right? That'll be the battle buddies that he had in the military at his side when it happened, right? Or even if it's a suicide, right? It'll be, again, friends and family back at home who, you know, never had to experience what he experienced. And, you know, presumably, obviously, the guy who experiences doesn't want them to experience that, right? And then that pain actually radiates out further, right? Because the friends and family of those people are going to see the people that they love suffer the loss of this person who has died as a patriot, right? And so the cost of the blood of patriots is not just that a patriot has died, right? The cost of the blood of patriots is the happiness of the people who were around said patriot as and suffer as a consequence of said patriot being sacrificed to the tree of liberty, right? So again, the whole idea of like it cost more than parades ever knew. Yeah, that's entirely fair, right? Because oftentimes when you think about this, you think about, again, all the men and women who have fallen, but you don't really think about most people, in my experience, right? Don't really think about, for example, the wives that have been left, and the widows that have been left behind that now have to, you know, care for their children alone, or may not have ever had the opportunity to have those children in the first place, right? Or, you know, the father or the mother who no longer gets to see, you know, who has to go on, you know, after their child has died, right? Or, you know, if, depending on the age of the person, the son who now loses their, you know, father, or, you know, the daughter who loses their father, right? You know, a man who loses his best friend, right? Battle buddies who lose their brother in arms, right? So it's like there's a cascading effect when a man dies in war. It's not just that this man has died. That is already in itself tragic enough. But the cost is actually, it actually radiates out to an entire community of people who then have to pick up the pieces from this person having been taken from them in the first place, right? So that line is absolutely true, right? So let's see, what do we have here? Canal says, Crimson Rain says, what a discussion to play Elite Sniper, Sniper Elite 5-2, right? I mean, at least it's on brand gameplay-wise, right? When the fireworks fade, don't fade away too. Again, so this is one of those lines that can have distinct meanings depending on the context, right? So, obviously, like, this means that, like, don't let your attention fade away when the fireworks die, right? There's still more work that has to be done, right? But there's also that whole do not let your spark go out by irreplaceable spark, right? Anyone remember the scene from, what would you call it? A Silent Voice, right? Right after the fucking fireworks festival. Yeah, that kind of thing actually does happen too, right? So don't fade out like the fireworks. You have time, you still have time to burn, and you still have things to accomplish. So glow like the fucking sun if you can, right?
Fireworks fade, don't fade away too. We're the ones left standing when the smoke clears from view.
So we're the ones left standing when the smoke clears from view. Okay. So this kind of reminds me of the story of the Star Spangled Banner, to be perfectly honest, right? So obviously, the ones who are left standing when the smoke clears from view is like the survivors, right? Those who actually like survive the effort to safeguard liberty in the homeland, right? Which sometimes does require interventionism, right? I'm not a big fan of interventionism, but if I have to pick between, stopping 12erists from getting nukes, after they have multiple times expressed a desire to use said nukes to bring about the end of the world and herald in the Mahdi, and, non-interventionism, and then apocalypticists getting their hands on nuclear weapons, the cost of being wrong about that is way too high, right? So, yeah. Let's see. So we're the ones left standing when the smoke clears from view. I don't really know how to explain this without insulting the intelligence of the people watching.
Don't discard us like flags that have served their display.
So don't discard us like flags that have served their display. Again, yeah, fair enough. The flags have a particular function that they need to fulfill, right? And when they can no longer fulfill that function, they have to be disposed of. And there is a particular way that you dispose of flags, especially the American flag, after they have, served their function. But here it is, well, we have filled our function, in theory, in the song, right? Actually served in the military to protect and defend. And so now that we have fulfilled that function, that's not, that doesn't give license to throw, people away. It's like, yeah, sure, a lot of people who come back from the military are deeply mentally ill in some way, shape, or form, right? They've suffered extreme trauma. They've actually, developed hypervigilance. It's hard to be around them because their brain just doesn't really know how to acclimate, how to, take command of the things that actually happen to them, right? But that's not a license to throw them away, right? Especially, again, if they're a combat veteran and they went to serve to safeguard freedom in the homeland. Kura says, I admit I went for heavy symbolism and romanticism here for my choice of lyrics. That's that's not a bad decision, right? That's not a bad decision. The whole point of romanticism is that man has a life worth living and that man is defined as a rational animal with freedom of will so that he can actually take control of his destiny by understanding the world around him. So he actually has some control over how his life plays out. So I would imagine a romantic choice is actually a very good choice for a song like this.
We gave you your future, now don't turn away. In the quiet that follows the cheers and the light. What's the
Okay, so that line actually basically confirms, in my head, the last one I had here, right? Don't discard us like flags that have served their display. We gave you your future, now don't turn away. Again, when a man comes back broken from the battlefield, it is not appropriate, even though it is going to be harder to now, be around them. It's going to be harder to, deal with the physical consequences of how their body and mind and spirit, especially the moral injury, because people actually don't really understand how deep the moral injury can actually be and how the moral injury is often way more powerful than the specific psychological or physical injuries can be. Which, by the way, is why the moral injury in the medieval ages was actually something that they, had detailed ways to deal with. But yeah, just because that is the case, that doesn't give license to abandon the person, who had gone and served the country, right? So don't turn away, because again, the whole purpose that they're damaged in the first place is to give you your future, to ensure your future as an American with the liberties that you have, right? Now, I could say one thing that would make me glow like the sun, but I don't particularly feel like inviting the eye of Sauron on me, but something American founders nowadays, decades ago, I'm just saying. Need to get a sip of tea. Okay. In the quiet that follows the cheers and the light. Okay. We're still fighting the darkness that haunts us at night. Again, obviously, again, like the moral injury in particular, right? There is a psychological aspect to PTSD, for example, but the moral injury is the thing people keep forgetting about, right? the wound to the character in the eyes of to a person's character in their own eyes can be a very, very damaging thing. It's hard to really wrap your head around that, right? PTSD can occur for a number of different reasons. It's often because it's an encounter with the shadow in a way that is completely uncontrolled and what would you say, unsafe, right? For example, sometimes people get PTSD from seeing what other people have actually done in proximity, right? And the reason that that happens is because it's not just a recognition of the danger, it's actually a recognition that you have the self-same nature as the person who had just done this thing, right? So that thing that compelled someone to do that evil act in front of you is also somewhere deeply nested in you. You just don't want to see it, right? And this is something that often happens with people who have never actually tried to integrate their shadow into themselves. But yeah, so we're still fighting the darkness that haunts us at night. Luckily, I did not have to deal with this part, but this is a thing that does happen with people, right? And not everyone survives that particular fight. Let's see.
Fight in the darkness that haunts us at night. On the 4th of July, when you feel that pride swell, remember the broken who gave you this tale.
Okay. So on the 4th of July, when you feel that pride swell, remember the broken who gave you this tale. Again, like the whole idea of, again, the whole point of the fireworks show in the first place is to remember the sacrifices that were made in the American War of Independence, right? It's a sacrifice that has to be repeatedly made from time to time, right? Why did we have the Barbary Wars, right? Because the fucking Muslims kept touching our boats and kept enslaving Americans, right? So guess what? We got to do the counter jihad, right? Well, you touched our boats, we're gonna go and kick some ass, right? Or the entire thing with the Cold War, right? And the proxy wars of the Cold War. You can't let communism exist anywhere for the most part because it's entirely acidic, it's subversive, and it knows that it can get away with lying to people, right? So you have to crush it any place that you see it. And that was the entire point of the Korean War and the Vietnam War, right? Was these are places where the Cold War turned hot, and instead of going to war with the Soviet Union, which would have been a really bad idea, you know, there is a proxy conflict for the soul of a particular region. And, you know, to anyone who thinks that maybe that was a bad idea, all you have to do is literally just look at the difference between North Korea and South Korea, right? And see the massive fucking difference between the two, right? I'm just telling you, even though Korea is a fucking clusterfuck, north and south, right? I am pretty sure people in the south are happier than the people in the north, right?
4th of July, when you feel that pride swell, remember the broken who gave you this tale to live through in silence, discarded and lost. Take care of your veterans, no matter the cost.
So this is the whole spirit of reciprocity right here, right? What is done to you, what is done for you merits a sort of debt that has to be repaid, right? So someone goes, bleeds, almost dies for, you know, you to keep your freedom, you know, hypothetically speaking, right? And, you know, instead of that, no, that actually builds a sense of like indebtedness because again, they fought and bled in a at least abstract sense for you, or at least this is the psychology behind the practice, right? So to live through in silence, discarded and lost. This is a very common, not very well, yeah, this is a very common thing to happen to veterans too, right? Is a lot of them end up homeless because again they can't really get a handle on like what's going on in their own head. Mostly, again, due to the moral injury and being unable to really deal with the moral injury that they suffered while overseas. Let's see. Take care of your veterans no matter the cost. Yeah, again, this is, as I said, the reciprocity, right? I don't know that I would say no matter the cost, right? There are certain costs that are way too fucking high, but the spirit of this is actually, like, laudable, right? Like, if there is a class of people that is tasked with keeping the rest of society safe, from outsiders that would want to see your way of life crushed, then yeah, you probably do owe a duty to those people when they come back, you know, broken and, you know, lost. Let's see. Just someone says, like having someone thank you for your service, but you never had to fight, and you feel somebody else deserves their thanks more. Oh yeah, yeah. Again, I've never said again, as I've said, my experience is definitely different than than some of the people on this thing, right? I am myself ex-military, but again, I don't exactly share a lot in common with the experiences that Brewer has, right? I'm not going to claim to be a combat veteran because, you know, heads up, I'm not. But yeah.
Every loud pop sends me back to the fray where the friends that I love were just taken away. Smile through the panic and nod through the fear, but the home.
Okay, that was me. That was me accidentally clicking a button. Let's see. Where are we? Right here. Every loud pop sends me back to the fray where the friends that let's see, I loved were taken away. So this is obviously the whole thing with like flashbacks. Like the imagery of the flashback is like leveraged right here, right? The loud pops take him back to the battlefield where the friends that he loves were taken away. So again, survivor, you know, PTSD, survivor's guilt right here. I smile through the panic, I nod through the fear. Again, the rational mind taking control over the limbic system, which is the thing that you have to learn how to do, right? You have to learn eventually how to actually take control of your limbic system with the rational portion of your brain. That's not really negotiable. That is the thing you have to do if you want to actually live some semblance of an actual like coherent life after, you know, trauma. Let's see. Smile through the panic, I nod through the fear.
Just taken away. Smile through the panic, I nod through the fear, but the home that I came to don't feel like it's here.
But yeah, this is the thing I was talking about earlier too, right? There's many reports of people where they come back, and it's almost again a good example of this is like the to anyone who's ever read the book, right? Is the end of the Lord of the Rings where Frodo returns to the Shire, right? And it's completely different from the way that he left it, right? It's not actually possible for him to return to the Shire because the place that he's returning to has, one, physically changed in the time he was gone, but two, it has also changed. He himself has also changed, and so therefore his relationship to that place has also changed as a result of what he has gone through, the decisions he has made, and what he still needs to do when it comes to integrating his shadow into himself, right? So, but the home that I came to don't feel like it's here. Again, this is a very common thing, and this is part of this is one of the things that can compound difficulties with reintegrating back into society, right, as a civilian. And it really is reintegration, because the culture of the military is very different than almost any culture of a civilian life, right? I can't really think of one that would even be remotely close, but I'm pretty sure there's probably some bizarre culture in civilian life that's like it. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. So, yeah, because, again, you go and you live in an entirely radically different culture than civilian life, and then you have to come back and readjust. Okay, Keelanala says, what do you mean by the shadow? I'm using the shadow in the sense of, like, the Jungian archetypal shadow. So an archetype is a operation of the mind, right? And the shadow specifically, there's many different archetypes, but the shadow archetype is the part about yourself that you don't particularly like, or that you don't particularly trust. So instead of confronting it head on, you push it to the back of your brain so you don't have to pay attention to it, right? Everyone has that part of themselves, and you know, it can overlap with other archetypes. For example, the real controversial take here is I actually think that the Jungians are correct in their assessment of like the trans psychology, right? I think a trans man is entirely possessed by his anima, right? His feminine aspect that he inherits from his mother. But long story short, that's exactly what it is that eventually you have to recognize those parts about yourself that are not comfortable to acknowledge, but you have to do so in a way that you can healthily integrate into yourself under the control of your rational mind, right? So the rational mind part is something I added into there. That's not part of normal Jungian psychology. I put a huge emphasis on the reason of man's mind, because reason is that thing that makes man what he is, right? The thing that makes man specifically human is that we are rational animals. We are very clearly animals, but the thing that sets us apart from other animals is that we are rational souls as well, right? So to deny reason, right, to forsake your rational capacities is to actually betray your very nature, because your nature is that of a rational animal. And if you ever notice, a lot of these places where they have inshitified themselves, right, sometimes for thousands of years, sometimes recently, it almost always involves some degree of forsaking your rational nature. So, just saying. Okay.
The system is broken, appointments delayed, while another good soul decides not to stay.
Ooh, okay, yeah. You know what? Yeah. So, the system is broken, appointments delayed, while another good soul decides not to stay. So, another good soul decides not to stay is not exactly subtle, right? It's about as subtle as the hammer to the face, right? Oh man. I don't know that I necessarily want to go in. Well, I don't know that I necessarily want to go too deep into that one. But it's very clearly talking about people who took their way out, took a bow out and decided to slide down the sewer, right? Yeah. It was a thing I contemplated while I was, in the military, but not for the military things. There were other things going on in my life. Well, it was like it was definitely something on my mind, but I've gotten over that gay affectation. Let's see. System is broken. Appointments delayed. This is like the VA right here, right? It's hard to fucking get an appointment because there's, again, the bureaucracy just makes it so fucking slow, right? When you get, even when you get the appointment, sometimes you get a fucking incompetent doctor, because let's be fair, it is the VA. They do have incompetent doctors that they can't really get rid of. And I know this because I've had family members who've had to deal with the VA. I used to volunteer for the VA, so I've seen how incompetent the VA actually is. But I don't really know if there's a real solution to the VA problem, because it is ultimately a government, funded program, and those tend towards, what would you say, not being very efficient.
They gave us the guns, they gave us the fight, then gave us the back when we turned on the lights.
Again, right here, they gave us the guns, they gave us the fight. This is literally that scene from fucking Rambo. This is literally that scene from Rambo. A sewer slide, if you will. Yeah, there's a lot of, a third of all Army briefings, for the most part, at least back when I was in there, were don't self-delete, right? a third of all the fucking the briefings I had to go to in the military were do not self-delete. So yeah, you're not entirely wrong with that, right? Let's see. Then gave us the back when we turned on the lights. Again, turn your back on the people who, again, sacrifice for your ability to have the life that you live, right? Let's see. I will say that there is a mature and there is a naive idea for loyalty in this sense, right? Obviously, the reciprocity has limitations, right? And I think that all of us know that this is know this intrinsically. I'm just putting that out there because we do live in times that are strange. Again, on the wounds that won't close and the nights that won't sleep. Again, this is the moral injury that we're talking about here. This thing of we're the price of your freedom, the ones you don't keep.
Of your freedom, the ones you don't keep. So before the last spark disappears in the sky, look into the eyes of the ones passing by who wear the same jacket but carry the weight of a war that don't end at the border brigade. We don't.
I mean, as fucked up as it might be to say, right? It is. And I'm not saying, again, don't self-delete, but it is actually, in some respect, right, easier on the ones who actually do not come back because they don't actually have to, deal with the moral injury, right? Again, either their problems are over or they have just started, and if they have just started, that, the problem that just happened is not the biggest of their concerns. Yeah, so we're the price of your freedom, the ones you don't keep. Let's see. Where is it? So before the last spark disappears in the sky, look into the eyes of the ones passing by. Again, there's the whole idea of like anyone that you meet on like you know, out there could very well be one of these veterans, right? The homeless man down the road could be a veteran, right? Who just hasn't been able to put himself back together since, you know, everything happened. You know, your neighbor could very well be a veteran. They just don't talk about it. A lot of veterans just don't talk about their stuff. Even when they don't exactly have traumatic experiences, they don't necessarily, not all of us talk about this stuff, right? Like, I very rarely talk about this. It does pop up because people bring it up, right? The only reason I'm talking about it right now is I'm in the video, right? But it's like, a lot of us just don't talk about this stuff in general, right? And sometimes it's because, again, it's too hard to talk about it. And in my case, it's just I don't find it interesting to talk about, so I just don't talk about it. Look in the eyes of the ones passing by. Let's see. Who wear the same jacket but carry the weight of a war that don't end at the border or gate. Again, so there's two parts to this, right? There's two parts to this. The war that don't end at the border and gate. One is the phenomenological aspect, right? The experiential aspect of it, right? Of, again, carrying the baggage of what has been done to you and what you have done, and the limitations of your abilities in that thing, right? Because the moral wound can also not just be, well, I had to do X, Y, or Z. It can also be, I was unable to stop X, Y, or Z, right? That's another way that a moral injury can occur. Considering what often happens when, again, American troops go to genuinely do some good stuff in another part of the world, whether or not you think we should be there, it's a different story. But when they do go over there, oftentimes the people who are local who try to help also pay the price, right? Again, there were a number of people in Iraq and Afghanistan, whether or not you think we should have been there, not part of the point. But a lot of the people who tried to help the Americans, right, who actually believed in the Americans being there, got killed by the enemy, right? In the peacekeeping operations, you would see this happen as well, right? People, it's not even a war, but this peacekeeping operation, right? Americans go there to sometimes help the United Nations, and then the people there who try to help you end up dying, right? It's just a thing that happens with a lot of this stuff. So the moral injury can be, I can't believe that I had to do this, and it can also be, I should have been better. Now, the I should have been better thing is a bit of a pride and vanity thing, but again, a bit of a thing for another time, right? But there's a second part of the war that don't end at the border or gate, right? That part is the more interesting part, which is the Oath Keeper one, right? And it's when you take your oath as a military member, you take an oath to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? Which is one of the reasons I like the Oath Keepers, is because they try like hell to, again, defend the Constitution. Not that anyone fucking listens to them, but, you know, again, your conflict doesn't just end because you're no longer on the shooting part of the conflict. Your conflict continues when you're on the domestic side, and you have to defend from the enemy's domestic as well, but you can't fight with the same tactics that you did when you were abroad, right? Or at least you can't anymore. Back in the Battle of Athens, they definitely could use the tactics that they did over abroad, and guess what? It worked. But nowadays, you can't exactly do that, right? Like, disclaimer, I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying that it did happen, it did work, and for legal reasons, I don't support it. But anyway.
Same jacket, but carry the weight of a war that don't end at the border brigade. We don't ask for much, just a hand and a voice. Not discarded like trash when you made your choice.
Again, right here, so this is a call for personalism, right? To see the other, the object of discussion not as an instrument to be used and discarded in history like a Hegelian project, right? But rather to see them as a person, co-equal in nature to you yourself, right? So, let me go further a bit. I forget how fast these lines are sometimes. Okay, we don't... Okay, that's, here we go. We don't ask for much, just a hand and a voice, not discarded like trash when you made your choice.
Ask for much.
Okay, so the hand is obviously help, right? Again, if I'm struggling, then not me per se. I'm using me as in like a abstract veteran, right? Like if I need help, I would like a hand, right? Someone to help me get out of the situation, assuming I want to get out of the situation. What's that thing that Jesus said to one of the people he healed? Do you want to be well? The answer, the sad reality is that there's a lot of people who the answer to that question is, if you probe them, no, they don't want to be well. You can't help those people. It's just not possible. If someone doesn't want to be helped, you can't help them. But so like a hand and a voice, again, someone to actually, in this case, like the hand is a helping hand, like the voice is presumably a helping voice, right? To speak when you can't yourself speak. This is the thing that happens as well, right? And there's like, again, veterans are human beings. There's going to be times where they just can't do something for X, Y, or Z reason. It's just not possible, right? Not discarded like trash when you made your choice. Again, I just talked about the instrumentalism part.
Just a hand and a voice, not discarded like trash when you made your choice to celebrate loudly the land of the free while we pay the price in our own misery.
Okay, so to go back just a little bit, I did forget to mention this, the whole not discarded like trash when you made your choice. That's the thing, is like it's also a decision, right? To not decide is still a decision. You have chosen not to decide, right? If you choose to ignore someone, you have still chosen to ignore that person, right? If you choose to help someone, you have chosen to help that person, right? If you choose to spite someone, you have chosen to spite that person. If you choose to operate on autopilot and not pay attention, you have chosen your decision, right? These are all things you choose. So again, the song is requesting that you choose to treat people not as instruments for an end, but as people in and of themselves, the same as yourself, right? And that is not as common as you think. The personalism thing is not nearly as common as people think it is. Instrumentalism is a very, very common occurrence in human relationships, right? Where people actually use each other as means to an end instead of, again, as people with their own ends and goals themselves. So, to celebrate loudly the land of the free while we pay the price in our own misery. Again, like I didn't pay this price of misery. I dodged this bullet, right? That's absolutely a dodge for me. But like for other people in this particular image, yeah, absolutely, right? The cost of their own mental well-being, their character, again, the moral injury that we're talking about here, because there are times you have to make decisions that you have to carry in your soul, right? The physical injuries that occur in military service, those are all prices that have to be paid, and they're being paid on your behalf by someone else, right? You paid the price of risery by becoming a streamer. God damn it. What the fuck is risery? Crimson, what are you talking about? Is this a slang term I'm just too not zoomer to understand? Let's see. Oh, okay. My YouTube is really wigging out on me, it seems. Oh, I like that little reverb in the re part. Yeah, again, it's like, and you know what? Anyone remember the images of like the British soldiers from World War II? And they're like, what happened to my country? I don't recognize this place. What happened? That's this right there, right? Oh my God, I feel so bad for that old man, right? He literally doesn't recognize his own country. He's like, what did we die for? What did we fight for? Yeah, and I have a sneaking suspicion, again, you know what? The way that the country is moving is exactly in that direction, to the I don't recognize the country that I live in anymore kind of deal, right? So when the fireworks fade, don't let our hope fade into yesterday's song, right? Do not become or let others become that old British soldier, from World War II, thinking, did they even fight on the right side because of how the way that their country actually turned out over the course of their grandchildren's generations, right? Oh my God. I have a lot to say, but I don't want to glow, and I already glue like fucking the sun earlier.
We carry the burden so you could belong to a nation that honors the ones that it sent.
So, we carried the burdens so you could belong to a nation that honors the ones that it sent. Again, like the burden of violence, right, is placed upon the soldier to enact against those who would, again, come from the outside to destroy what lies within, right? And it is a necessary burden, even in an anarchist state, right? That burden may not be, well, not state as in like, you know, kind of being, not, you know, government, but even in an anarchist setting, you would still have that, you know, military type service performed by, you know, defense corporations. So even in a hypothetical stateless society, like an actual stateless society, you would still have to have that function actually performed by some organization, right? So someone has to shoulder the burden of violence, because it turns out that it's only through violence controlled by by reason that, you know, chaos can be brought into order, right? It is through force that we turn the world from chaotic, undefined mess into, again, ordered reality. So, let's see. We carried the burden so you could belong. Again, the price is paid by other people so you can benefit, to a nation that honors the ones that it sent. So, yeah, again, this is the whole thing that we were talking about, reciprocity. We bleed, you honor, right?
Just for a moment, but till the dead spent, stand with us in the silence, in the cold and the rain.
Okay, so this part is the same part, it just trails off into two different parts of the line. So, not for a moment, but till the debt spent, stand with us in the silence, in the cold and the rain. Okay, so again, this isn't just a thing. It's not like a momentary phenomenon. It's not just a momentary flash of emotion, right? It's not just like a smile and a nod. It's like an actual, again, decision and a will that has to be enacted. That, again, there is a due to someone for, again, having paid a price on your behalf so that you didn't have to pay that price in the first place, right? So stand with us in silence. Let's see. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. In the cold and the rain, be the promise we clung to through all the pain. Because again, it's like, so one of the things people, okay, there's this romanticism that the idea that, like, when you're a soldier and you're overseas, that you're fighting and dying for the country back at home, which is actually not usually true. Every soldier I've ever talked to has told me that when the fucking bullets start flying, right, it's actually fighting for, you know, your own life and for the life of your brother and the, you know, at your side, right? Because let's be fair, it is a more immediate concern at that very moment, right? So there's a difference between, like, the immediate, you know, will and the overall, or the overarching general will. So in the cold and the rain, be the promise we clung through all the pain. Again, be the, you know, again, if someone's going to go and fight and die for you, be the kind of person who's actually worth fighting and dying for, kind of deal, right? I mean, I think that's a pretty fair trade, right? Right? I think that's a pretty fair trade, right? If someone's going to go and fight and die for you, be the kind of person that's worth going to go, you know, have someone fight and die for, right? Otherwise, like, what the fuck is the point? Discard us again when the cheering all fades. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go back just a little bit. So, when the fireworks fade, remember our names. And again, anyone remember the Vietnam War Memorial, right? You could probably have multiple of those just for, like, again, all the confirmed who fell for the various wars that are out there. And again, I don't think people really understand the number of people who actually, you know, fight and die for the country in any given military conflict, except for you know, the Battle of Mogadishu, because it turns out Somalians can't fight. Must be true, right? Must be fair, right? Yeah, let's see. Don't discard us again when the cheering all fades. We gave you the day. Now give us the Okay, so that was Kura's song. And before I play it again, just so that we can hear Kura's song uninterrupted by my ramblings, right? I would like to ask Kura whether how close or far I am to like what exactly you are aiming for or meant in this song, right? Again, for the most part, no one really knows any details about my military service because I don't really talk about it, right? I don't really find it all that interesting. And whenever you bring up, hey, I was actually in the army, people assume that like you saw some shit, and it's like, nah, no, that wasn't my MOS. My MOS was actually something totally different, right? So I don't exactly bring it up because all it does is it causes confusion. Damn, that is some good tea. I'm gonna crash from sugar later. All right. So while Kura is cooking up that answer to the question, I am going to play the song again just so we can enjoy it.
When the fireworks fade, the war doesn't end. Lace up these boots, though the march is long done. The battles I fought left me shadowed and numb. Fireworks light up the heavens in red, white, and blue, but they echo the blast that still tear me in two. I watch from the edges while families embrace, proud of a country that can't see my face. In the crowd of the living, I'm dying inside with medals that tarnish and memories that hide. They offer their thanks like a coin in a well, then walk away happy I've been through this hell. The glare of the rockets can't cover the truth that freedom has cost more than parades ever knew. And the fireworks fade, don't fade away too. We're the ones left standing when the smoke clears from view. Don't discard us like flags that have served their display. We gave you your future, now don't turn away. In the quiet that follows the cheers and the light, we're still fighting the darkness that haunts us at night. On the 4th of July when you feel that pride swell, remember the broken who gave you this tale to live through in silence, discarded and lost. Take care of your veterans, no matter the cost. Every loud pop sends me back to the fray, where the friends that I love were just taken away. I smile through the panic, I nod through the fear, but the home that I came to don't feel like it's here. The system is broken, appointments delayed, while another good soul decides not to stay. They gave us the guns, they gave us the fight, then gave us the back when we turned on the lights. On the ones that won't close in the nights without sleep, with the price of your freedom, the ones you don't keep. So before the last spark disappears in the sky, look into the eyes of the ones passing by, who wear the same jacket but carry the weight of a war that don't end at the border brigade. We don't ask for much, just a hand and a voice, not discarded like trash when you made your choice to celebrate loudly the land of the free, while we pay the price in our own misery. When the fireworks fade, don't let our hope fade into yesterday's song. We carry the burden so you could belong to a nation that honors the ones that it sent, not just for a moment, but till the dead's spent. Stand with us in the silence, in the cold and the rain. Be the promise we clung to through all of the pain. When the fireworks fade, remember our names, don't discard us again. When the cheering all fades, we gave you the day, now give us the care. Don't let us fade. Don't let us fade.
I forgot to unmute myself. Anyway, so okay, that was Kura's song, When the Fireworks Fade. And Kura gave me an answer. Hold on. He said, I'd say you nailed it, but then I'm kind of an easy read, to which I responded, I'm glad to see that I was able to accurately represent what you made. There's an integrity in the simplicity of a reading. And then he said, I just really wanted it to be something to bring attention to things not often said and to correct those who have forgotten why we celebrate the 4th of July. And I think that's a good reason to make a song like this, to be perfectly honest, because damn, have people forgotten what the entire point of the 4th of July is, right? I will still be doing that Declaration of Independence reading. Not today particularly, though, but I will still probably be doing a Declaration of Independence reading, by the way, just to help clear up, again, misunderstandings about not just the holiday, but the entire ideological foundation of the country that we actually live in. Because I think that I definitely think that at least the Declaration of Independence should be required reading for every American student. But what do I know, right? I'm just a schizo ranting online. All right, so I will see y'all in the next episode. Go and again give Kura some much deserved love for this song, because this song was really good. 4th is hot dogs, soda, and fireworks. Fair enough.